Hey, we're live. Hello, Mr. Prasanna. I hope I said that right. How you guys doing? We'll see how many people show up. Impromptu live, COVID live night, Friday night. Can't go out. The city is on lockdown, so I figured I'd do a live. I got a question that was put to me by somebody in the mentoring community, so I figured it would be a good question for people who are getting into freelance. So we'll do a little bit of a live, getting into that subject, and then what I'm going to do is do a little Q&A afterwards as usual. We'll see how many people show up. It's going to give a few more minutes. Give me, whoever's there, there's 5 of you now. Can you hear me clearly? I'm using one of my old mics. Let me know if you can hear me or not. It's every mic has its own little signature. Hello, hey, how you doing? Whoa. There we go. Let me lock that in. I should lock that in. All right. Hey, Mr. Draco, vitaj, ciao. Yeah, it's okay. Can you guys hear me? Let me know if you can hear me. Say, hello, we can hear you. We can hear you. Just put it in the comments for me so I know everything is cool. Good, good. I appreciate that. That's all I needed to know. Fantastic. How are you, Jeremy? Jeremy from New York, I believe. Yeah. All right. There we go. Here come the questions. Woof. As they come in. Okay, I put them in the live stream. I think I can, eh? Let me see. Output, overlays, countdown, camera, widget overlay. I don't know. Hope everything is good. As usual, professional production. Yeah. All right. Okay, we should be good. Sorry, they just got a new version of the software, so I'm just checking out some of the new features. Output, audio, NDI, cam, options. I saw it before. Anyway, whatever. I hope everybody's well. Good, good. You can hear me. 31 people. Once we get a little bit more people, maybe 75 people, I'll jump into the subject at hand. Just some hissing sound. Really? You're still getting the hissing sound. Sounds great. Good pick. All right, cool, cool. Hey again from South Africa. Good, good. Kyle. From India. Hello. Hey, how are ya? Love from Canada. Camera quality is great. Thanks. Good, good. I appreciate that. Yeah, so I hope everybody's doing well during these COVID times. Yeah. So I figured I'd do a bit of a live since I can't go out. And anyway, these are always a lot of fun. So, yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover the subject at hand. And then I'm going to jump into the Q&A as usual. Yeah. So let's just jump into it. Where are my scenes here? All right. Yeah. Boom. Boom. There we go. So this is something that was sent to me. So can I zoom in on this a bit more? Boom. All right, here we go. Okay, so we'll jump into the questions and then we'll do some Q&A. So this was one of the members of my mentoring community. He sent this to me and I said, I thought the group, you guys might in the public find this useful. So he's been doing the courses. He's just started out. He wants to know about freelancing. So here are the questions. So can I start applying for freelance jobs now that I finished the first 3 courses, or I need to finish more courses first? So I assume I have to see which 3 courses he's talking about, because with the mentoring program, you get a lot. So if you're going to start freelancing, and we're talking about web here, the least you need is the front end. So you need your web foundations, your fundamentals, you need your HTML5, you need some CSS3, a touch of JavaScript. More on that later when I get to the answers. His next question was, If yes, what kind of job should I apply for, and is there a process in how to go about this? So as far as I can tell, he hasn't responded yet. He is looking for freelance jobs. So you apply to jobs that are aligned with whatever coding skills that you have, right? If you are, especially in the beginning you're a total beginner. When you get very advanced, when you get more advanced and you really understand software development in a deep way, then you're not limited to a particular language or framework. You just jump into anything and you'll be able to do it. So I'm assuming when he's asking me what kind of jobs should I apply for, and is there a process? So what kind of jobs? Well, if you're freelancing, that's a kind of job. He didn't clarify. Is he talking about different type of language? You know, are you going web dev? Are you going front end? So first of all, in terms of technical, when you're first starting out, you got to look for jobs where you have skills, right, in that particular area. When you're freelancing, it's just a question of availability, and depending on where you live in the world, I always say local business, word of mouth is the best at first, if you can. If you need to, go to the online communities, the big sites that are out there where you could start bidding on projects and so forth. One reality of when you're first starting out as a developer, whether you're freelancing or whether you're working for somebody, you're a junior, right? So you got to pay your dues, right? You're still a beginner, and so you're not going to be making, at the beginning, you're not going to make what you're going to be making after a little bit of experience is gained, you know, in terms of your own work. The key thing, which you want to take away, if you take anything away from this video, is you want to get into the game. You want to get into real life coding for other people, for projects, as quickly as possible. You don't want to get caught up in tutorial hell, continuously thinking you have to learn this and that and this and that and this and that before you get into it. The basics is basically all you need. So if we're talking web stack, you need to know how to build a website, of course. You need to know, HTML5, CSS3, a bit of JavaScript, understand responsive design, et cetera, et cetera. Any good fundamentals course will teach you all this kind of stuff. If you're doing freelancing, then if you know server-side programming with PHP or Python, Django, then your chances of landing work will go up quite a bit. It's really a huge leap ahead in that regard. So, yeah, so let's go continue on here. Is it necessary to learn master JavaScript at this point? No. For freelancing, unless you get a job doing React work or Vue work or something, PHP is actually more valuable because it's just the market. Again, I'm not talking about quality of technology here. I'm not talking about PHP is a better language than JavaScript. That's a nonsense debate. I'm talking about availability of jobs. There's just so many small businesses that are on PHP, okay? So next one. Do I need to practice building websites more before applying for jobs? Do I need a portfolio website? You should get your portfolio website up unless you have some really good contacts. You need to show that you have some skills. So what I teach is that you learn your foundations, number one. Number two, you put up a portfolio site to show your skills. Make sure that site looks good, even if you want to do back-end or full stack. And three, you go out there and you do 1, 2, maybe 2, 3 free projects as in the freelance space, if you will, where you're not necessarily getting paid for it. If you can get paid for it, fantastic. If you don't, that's okay too, because you consider it's part of the training. And by doing that, you're going to learn so much more. One live project of a simple site that you do for somebody, or some simple shopping cart implementation, is worth more than 10 tutorials that you do. So you want to get out there in the real world and start building as quickly as you possibly can. Let me dispel a myth. There's no coder, programmer in the world that knows everything about all the languages and all the stacks. It just doesn't exist. So in the real world of software development, coding, whether you do web design or mobile work, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you're learning a lot as you go, even after years of experience, okay? And then he asks, how can I access the forum? So in the mentoring group, of course, you get access to the private forum. So I sent him his answer there. So let me just read my quick answers I wrote to him. But it's pretty much a rehash of what I just said. So you need to put up a website demoing your skills. Then you should do 2 to 3 small free jobs to develop some skill. Use the freelance course as a guide. I have my freelance course. But once you have a site up, nothing wrong trying to get paid work, but do the freelance work. All right. I asked him, do you want a job or do you want a freelance job? When you're applying for a job, it's a little different from freelancing. The approach, let me jump into that a little bit. So if you're applying for a job as a freelancer, well, you're not applying for a job, you're bidding on a gig, you're bidding on a contract. Typically, they're going to ask you how much you charge per hour. But then when and if you get your first job, they're going to want a fixed budget anyway. So you may bid whatever it is. Depending on your part of the world, it could be $10 the hour, it could be $50 the hour. Anyway, you bid on a job. They're going to ask you how much per hour, but then they're going to want a fixed price. They say we're only going to pay $1,000. We're only going to pay $200. We're only going to pay $5,000. We're only going to pay $10,000. So it's just a game they play all the time. Later on, when you become very established and you got a good reputation and or your clients know you, then you can just work on what they call a per diem rate, meaning you can just say, okay, I'm charging you whatever X dollars per hour, and the job gets done when the job gets done. When you have good reputation and solid relationship with clients, that's the way it goes. So I hire contractors on a regular basis, and the ones that I know well, I know how long a job will take within 10-20% because I've been doing this for so long. I can judge that, but I don't micromanage. I don't ask for bids on projects. I just know their rate. We have an established rate that they charge me, and that's it. And they get it done, and they send me how long it took to do it. But that's because they're skilled, they have good reputation, I know them, etc. So when you're first starting out, there's one reality of freelancing. When you get more experience, etc., there's another reality. So you just have to understand when you're first starting out, you're still learning the ropes. So you got to be a little bit patient. In terms of getting a job, a different thing. Then you're applying for a position, for a job. So it's not so much a bid on a contract where, you have to come in typically with a certain baseline set of skills that they may be looking for. So if you're applying for a React job, you better know at least some basics of React. If you're applying for a Python Django job, you better know your Python and your Django. Whereas in freelancing, it's more about the project. When I did my very first server-side programming freelance job, and the contract, in today's dollars, what would it be worth in today's dollars? In today's dollars, it'd be probably worth 30, 40 grand, maybe more, maybe 50 grand. So it was a good contract for me. And it was my very first server-side coding job. I had never done server-side coding before, and it was a lot of server-side coding. But I did a lot of client-side development, and so I used my skills as a project assessor. I bid on the project, and I was able to get the project based on my ability to have rapport with the client, to present a professional bid, to communicate well with them, so that they had confidence that I would deliver on the project. Even though I didn't know how to do server-side coding, this project was largely server-side, I was still able to get the contract. And let me tell you, when you got a deadline looming and tens of thousands of dollars on the line, that motivates you to learn something new. So I was able to learn server-side coding, basic database design. I was able to pull off a pretty good app with not too many problems, and just because I just stuck to best practices and so on. Okay, let's go back. What we got here? Finally, did you join the forum? Okay, so I did that one. All right, so let's go back. Yeah, but when you're applying for a job, on the other hand, they're going to we want a Python coder, we want a PHP Laravel coder, we want a JavaScript coder. When you're bidding on projects, they'll ask you, can you do it? And you say yes, and that's pretty much it. Then it gets down to the bid and the communications and so forth, right? Then you can learn as you go. And when you get very good at software development, you will be able to pivot from one tech to the next without too much difficulty. All right, so that pretty much covers that question. I'm just going to minimize this for now. Yeah, so do you guys have any questions? We'll do a little Q&A. There's a way I should be able to include your stream of overlays, show overlay window. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. I want to show the stream of comments on the side. There we go. Show recording, choose recording folders, output. My apologies. Hold on a second. Hold on. I saw it just before. I was like, oh, okay, this is cool. Get your question. You have questions, write them for me, and I will attempt to answer. My camera source. Oh, well, what are you going to do? All right, so let's answer some questions here. Yes, I am an iOS developer. I am stuck in tutorial hell. How do I escape? Can I learn the fundamentals? Are you an iOS developer? Or you mean you're learning to be an iOS developer? I would just apply for jobs. Apply for jobs. If you've done a couple of projects where you're comfortable building something from scratch, then just apply for jobs as a junior and just get out there and do stuff. Or do a job for free for somebody. That's what you got to do. You got to take that. There's this point where you got to have to take this leap of nerd faith, if you will, to get into the work. Okay. You may ask it. Go ahead. You may ask it. Okay, good. What level of knowledge is required for freelancer job? Basic knowledge. You just got to bid on projects that you can tackle. They're not going to, a company that will hire you as a freelancer, they're not going to be checking your credentials too much. They're going to judge you based on how you present to them. And just don't take on anything you can't do. That's all. But also understand, as I just said, you're going to learn stuff as you go. That's part of the game as a developer. So don't assume that you have to know everything. Spencer says, hey, how are you, Stefan? I'm pretty good. I'm a little tired because I broke my keto diet today and I ate a box of, not a big box, a small box of Ritz crackers, which are so tasty. But when you're off carbs and you cheat and have a carb day, it just knocks me out. It's like a sleeping pill. Yeah. So I'm doing pretty good. I hope you're doing pretty good. I hope everything is well. Node.js versus Django REST framework. Again, I'm language and technology neutral, meaning I believe, well, I know, because I've been coding since the 1990s, that the language and the framework is the one that's best depends on the job at hand. And, the technical requirements, it could be a company has a big investment in Django, so they're not going to want to set up a node stack to have to maintain, or vice versa. So I'm very much neutral because I've seen great apps built in every technology out there, right? Very successful apps, you can question how badly or how badly it's coded or not, but WordPress, one of the most successful apps ever written in history. I think the guy's a billionaire. Facebook is PHP, WordPress PHP. Instagram, I think, is Python. Twitter was originally Ruby Rails. LinkedIn is Java. MSN is, of course, C#.net. They're all good. They're all good. It all depends on what you're doing, Okay, so there's a little conversation for people here. Let's go on. Let's go up. Let's go on. Let's see what Jerry has to say. Yes, just keep pushing. It's not tutorial hell. Your brain is just trying to adapt your new learning pattern. Don't worry, you'll get there. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Are there any places that you know of that advertise freelance jobs that pays in Bitcoin? I think some of the big online, you know, sites, maybe Upwork or something, they may allow for Bitcoin payments. That's becoming more and more mainstream over time. Not a problem. Spooch says, Steph, please share your opinion on Google Analytics and Google Tag Manager. Well, Google Analytics, as far as I know, is the most advanced web analytics I've ever seen. I know there's some competing solutions now. I haven't used Tag Manager yet, so I have to look into that. Yeah, keto is amazing. How much did I have that I lost? So since July, I've lost about 18 pounds just by going to keto. Not training too hard, just following keto principles, mild training. 18 pounds. It's not bad. After those crackers, maybe I've only lost 15 now. But, you know, my HTML, CSS, and vanilla JS is strong. Is that plus WordPress enough to get hired as a WordPress dev? Just throw in a little PHP and maybe a smidge of SQL, and you're ready to go. So you're almost there, man. You're very, very close. But you could start applying now. How to get local freelance contracts? Well, you can go, if you have friends, maybe you can go there, talk to them, friends, family, acquaintances, local butcher, local coffee shop. Start networking, you know, old classic business. When you're first starting out, it's a little difficult, but in time, as you establish yourself and you have more work than you could possibly manage, you just got to get over that initial hump, that's all. My freelance course, I get into much more in depth about that. Steph, can you talk more about web accessibility and how it's relevant in the web space today? Well, web accessibility is making your site navigable, understandable by people who are impaired, you know, they can't see, etc. The blind and so on. If you design your sites properly with good, clean code, making them accessible is not a lot of work. You just tag some. You add proper attributes to your HTML tags. You structure things in the code, so text readers, so people who are blind people who are navigating the web through text readers don't have to go through long menus, for example. So, for example, if you have like a mega menu, in the code, you put the mega menu at the bottom of the page and you say mega menu in the code, but using CSS, you have it appear at the top. But what that does is when somebody who's using a screen reader, they won't have to go through, the screen reader won't read through a huge menu. Although I bet you more advanced screen readers, if you tag it as mega menu, they might allow them to skip past the menu. But it's the small little things like that. In the old days, when coding wasn't as sophisticated and most web designers weren't very good with code, it was a job to make sites accessible. But now with just proper modern coding technique in HTML and CSS, you're very close, you know. I knocked myself out of keto with fat bombs. Fat bombs? I don't know what fat bombs are. I took your freelance course. Should I collect the final payment before or after deploying my work on their domain? I want to make sure I get paid. Thanks. That's a good question. Once you deliver, assume it's a website, once you deliver the website and you got final approval, or they say, fantastic, go live, you have them sign a piece of paper saying, finally approved, this is approved. They give you a check, and then you deploy live, because you've got no leverage other than that. So that's how you do it. But make sure you get them to sign saying, this is done, we're done. And then you get your check, and then you push live. All right. Otherwise, you push it live, and they have control of the server, you have nothing, right? They can not pay you, right? C# for freelancing, go. Again, it's job specific. I don't know how many freelancing jobs are there in C#. There might be. There might be. I've done work in the past, although at the time, it's a long time ago, there was some work where I was working for a company. They're actually selling animation software of all things. Anyway, and they were all entrenched in the Microsoft stack. So if you get a gig as a freelancer working for companies who may require that you use a C#, depends, Bitcoin mining and importance of C++ for performance critical elements. Yeah, if you need power, meaning speed, then you want to drop down to C++ and C for sure. Hey, Stef, in terms of website content as a freelancer, do you have to supply it, meaning the paragraphs, images? That's all in the contracts. That's all in the contracts. You may have to, it's a good question. I get that all the time, and because people run into this all the time. Because you deal with a client, a small business, especially you're new, and they're busy running their business, and you're trying to get information from them. They know their business. So they should be able to supply you with the copy and the images. And if, and you specify that in the contract, right? You specify that in the contract. And if you end up having to collect all this, you got to charge for that time. You charge for that time. That's why I use the time tracker template in my freelance course. I include all this kind of stuff, right? Because you got to start learning how a lot of your time as a freelancer is going to be spent away from the code. Making calls, chasing after clients, getting requirements together, having meetings. You're going to spend a lot of time not coding. And that's what you got to learn. So yeah. What else? My question, I wrote it. Did you write it? So let me see if I find it. I'm looking for his question here. Okay, here we go. Say you started a program in 2012, but didn't really hit the ground running until 2014. Should you ignore the years you got introduced to program in 2012? What do you mean ignore? In terms of your resume? Is that what you're saying? Well, you just say start coding in 2012, I suppose. I don't know what you mean. It depends what, were you learning how to code? Did you do just a few projects in 2012 and a few projects in 2013? You were coding. Or did you took an HTML course in 2012 and then a year later you looked at a few more HTML tags, then a year later you actually learned something. That's a different game altogether. So it depends on how much you did back in those days, okay? All right, how are we doing for time? Okay, good. I'm scrolling down here. Okay, we go. All right. Dave Love says, I think the way it goes that you want to be able to pseudocode it out in your head during a conversation with prospective client before you accept, but RFPs make things easier. 199-200. 199-200. Yeah, RFPs, requests for proposals. Be careful with those. Don't put too much effort into them because a lot of times companies, especially when you're a noob developer and they know it, you're a noob freelancer, they're going to look for RFPs just to get free information from you. So don't spend hours and hours and hours on RFPs because it takes up too much time. All right, so we got here. Sir, will you prefer freelancing on actual blockchains as Ethereum or work on Harley to build on itself? I'm not sure if I understand that question. Basically, don't accept if you're thinking, how the fuck am I going to do that? Yeah, pretty much, That's why, the way I teach people, you learn your fundamentals well. When you do that, it's going to really open you up to a lot of possibilities in terms of what you can do. And so I touch off on a whole bunch of different things in that regard. And in the coding world, I touch off on a whole bunch of different things when I teach, so that there's less chance of that happening overall. Okay. But yeah, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where you're like, you're compromised. All right, I got a super chat. Well, thank you, Emmanuel. Let's see what's going on here. Super chat, PHP 200 from Emmanuel Ang. Stef, page builders creates 1,000 lines of code as opposed to native web. Any thoughts in terms of page speed, SEO, etc.? Good question. I don't think it has much impact these days in terms of page speed, because bandwidth is just getting so powerful now. Not everywhere, but we have high-speed internet. It's not like it was 10, 15 years ago, where a lot of people were still on dial-up, and that kind of optimization was important. Processors were much slower. Now, processors are so fast that they can burn through code so fast, so it's less of an issue. In terms of SEO, the search engines are very powerful nowadays. They're very powerful, so they can scan through pages and extract what they want fairly easily. It's not what it was. And also, what's going on, any reference to your website or to you outside of your website is very important these days, i.e. social. Yeah. And no worry, Dave. Yeah, it's the RFPs. RFPs, the only thing worse than RFPs are RFIs, requests for information. I got one from a pretty big organization a couple weeks ago with regards to my business, and I take the RFI email and I hit the delete button. Doot. Even a friend of mine works for one of the larger software manufacturers in the world. Even them, multi-billion-dollar business, they'll take RFIs and they'll put it at the bottom of the pile, which basically means in the garbage. RFI, if you don't know, is short for request for information, and they're just mining expeditions. They're looking to get free information from you. Just throw out RFIs. Don't waste your time, especially as a freelancer. Hi, Steph. Thanks for the insights. No problem, Lanny. I'm here to help. Mysticman. All right. What do we got? Skillful Factor 009. Excuse me. I asked because employer asks you experience in JavaScript, for example, but did HTML, CSS, JSS, and Python in 2012 in college, so that would say I'm hired. So should I say that to hiring manager? You always want to be honest, and you emphasize the good points, though. So you say, yeah, I started working with HTML and CSS in 2012. Since then, I've jumped into a lot of Python in 2014 and 2018. So you don't have to necessarily give them, your life story about how many hours you spent in those months. You know what I mean? In those years. As long as you're competent now, that's all that really matters. The number of projects. Okay. Let's see what Darian has to say. Hey, Steph, what do you think about Elixir Language and Phoenix? I don't know. I haven't looked at them. Sorry. You're on a 14.4 modem. How are you watching the video? I don't know if I believe that. Maybe. How did you get introduced to programming? What made you think it was a good idea? Good question. That's funny. I was actually thinking about answering that very question tonight. So let me go way back to the time of the dinosaurs when I started coding. So back in 1994, I had a business that had nothing to do with technology and coding. It was a water purification, rare fish, frozen food distributor, ion exchange resins, hybrid bacterial strains, all kinds of weird, wacky stuff. And so my brother, and I was quite young then, and my brother approached me and said, "Hey, you should put up a website." And I said to him, "What's a website?" And so, my stream quality may be dropping according to the interwebs here, so just letting you know. Anyway, so it was such an early time in the internet, so I started coding then. A couple of years later, I left that, I sold out my position in that company, and I was like, what am I going to do? And the web was just starting to grow. So I realized, luckily then, that having coding skills was like a superpower. It was a license to print money, in fact, at that time, and still is quite lucrative. So I started learning to code, and I liked it a lot because it just allowed me to build things. And I started experimenting. So when I sold out of the business, then I started freelancing in different areas, started building websites, and then started building web apps, and then put together my little original team. Studio Web, by the way, studioweb.com. You go check. It was registered in 1998, that domain. And it was for my web design studio, Studio Web. And after a few years of that, of doing freelance work and then taking on a bunch of projects and having people work for me, I decided that it wasn't for me, and I started experimenting on my own SaaS products and my own digital products, and sort of took off from there. So I learned to code because I realized learning to code was a very valuable skill set to have, no matter what I ended up doing. And it still is the case today. I advocate everybody learn, because even if you're not coding, understanding the process as a professional will give you insight into so many different things. Will make you a better app user, strangely enough. So yeah, that's my story basically, in a nutshell. There's a lot more, but it's enough for now. How are we doing? 36 minutes. All right, so the stream's been on for a little while. How to get motivated? My motivation is died. Okay. I'm going to cover all that in, how's this for great special effects? There it is. In my new course, Lizard Wizard. I'll teach you how and why your brain is motivated to do things and it's not motivated to do things. So let me give you a couple of tips. Your brain becomes habituated to that which you do. So the game is not some mental exercise where you do meditations every day to motivate yourself. No. You just got to slowly habituate yourself to coding on a regular basis. And that's how you get motivated. So that's the first thing. So what does that mean? I teach that. I say do the 20-minute rule. The 20-minute rule is just every day you say, I'm going to do 20 minutes of code. That's it. Just 20 minutes. That's it. And you sit down and you write the 20 minutes for 20 minutes. And after 20 minutes, it's still like really boring. It's pulling teeth for you. You just can't do it. You've done your 20 minutes. You've moved the ball forward. You stop. And then the next day, you do that 20 minutes again. Why only 20 minutes? Because it's a lot easier to do something that's only 20 minutes to do as opposed to 2 hours, right? It's a lot easier to get up. It's just 20 minutes. And the goal is 20 minutes. That's the goal. And what happens, you're going to start feeling good about yourself because every day when you do your simple 20 minutes, you're actually accomplishing goals. And when you're accomplishing goals, your brain goes, bring, bring, bring. Your brain gives you positive feedback and makes you feel good. So what happens in a short period of time, coding starts feeling good because you're accomplishing goals on a daily basis. So yeah, just that's the first. There's a few other things you could do, of course, but that's the most important one off the top of my head. Every day, you set a goal, you're doing just 20 minutes. Just 20 minutes. Even if you don't feel like doing it, you're doing your 20 minutes no matter what, because it's just 20 minutes. What often happens is once you get into the role, you start coding, all of a sudden 20 minutes becomes 25 minutes, and you just, oh, that's 25 minutes, okay. Oh, it's a half an hour, oh, okay. Oh, it's an hour, okay. But you got to do that 20 minutes. And listen, I'm there too. One of the things I hate doing the most is answering emails. So, oh, I get so many emails. So there are days it's like, so I got to go and I have to organize and categorize emails. There's this category of email, which I won't get into. And I have to discipline myself at least once every 3 days. I have to go into that dirty category of emails I don't like addressing. But I said, I'm just going to answer for 20 minutes. And at least I get some stuff done. And in time, things start improving and your associations start improving. Your brain becomes comfortable with that which it's exposed to on a regular basis. So the 20-minute rule works very well. Okay? Am I the only one who thinks Microsoft Azure hosting services are insanely expensive, especially for .NET freelancers? I haven't looked at the cost there, but it could very well be. Could very well. Okay, let's see what Stuart has to say. About to quit my job in January. Pretty convinced I can make the jump and focus 100% on my business. I plan on using your resource to keep me on track. Please keep doing what you do. I'm glad I could help. I always suggest that you transition. So if you're making money now, before I would drop your money making, unless you have a big pile of FU stash and investment, I would transition. That's how I did it myself, right? I was a I was a bouncer at a nightclub for a couple years when I was younger, when I was working on my business on the side. And so I was able to work at nights, 3-4 days a week, bouncing, and that's left my days free to work on my business. And eventually, I was able to drop the bouncing and just go full-time into the business, but at least I had some cash flow because I didn't want to take money from people. So there's my my tip there. How do I start out to be a programmer? What are the things I should focus on? You focus on your fundamentals, and then you I teach the web stack because I think it gives you the most opportunity. You can do web, you can do front end, back end, you can do PWA, you can do mobile development, you can do all kinds of different things. But whatever language or whatever stack you decide to pursue, you got to do your fundamentals, put out some basic work, and then get out and do a couple free jobs just to gain some experience. Thanks, Todd. Been programming since 1982. There you go. Old school. Old school. Texas Instruments. VIC-20. Yes, people, thumb up the video. All right, not a bad thumb up percentage, 73. It's not bad on 127. It's pretty good. Is it necessary to know JS firstly if I want to learn TypeScript? No, you can just jump into TypeScript. Hi, did you have any idea to teach kids coding to make them addicted playing games all day? Did you have any idea to teach kids coding to make them addicted playing games all day? I'm not sure if I understand that. I think that could be a joke. I just finished a MERN stack. How can I get into freelancing? I don't know. Get my freelance course. I'll teach you everything there. Step by step with templates and everything. Rails is the best for beginners. Okay, how do I ban this guy? I'm just kidding. We have a bit of a Rails Ruby joke on this site. What do you think is the most efficient way to learn algorithms? I would just learn a handful. Find out top 5 algorithms, learn those, and then start building real things. That's all. Unless you're doing AI and ML, maybe advanced game engine programming, algorithms are really not used too much. Learn PHP, okay, a little conversation going on. Here we go. Hi, Stef. Would you recommend focusing on freelance websites or seek clients independently? I do a little bit of both. You got to figure out where your market lies. I don't know what part of the world you live in. I don't know what your situation is, so it's hard for me to judge. But I would cast the line out. It's a fishing analogy. I would check out different spots, see what's good for you. You know. I have 2 girls, 11 and 8. Having to work 2 jobs was motivation enough for me. There you go. Yeah. Why should I watch you sell your live streams to me? Sounds like a challenge. Well, a lot of YouTubers who are talking about code, they're young nerdlings. They're very young. They haven't too much experience. Where I've been doing this since the 1990s, so I think there's some value there. If you wanted to get dating advice, I don't know if you should go talk to a 12-year-old. it's my experience, I would say. But you're welcome to come or go as you please, man. How to manage pricing in freelancing. There's a whole bunch of different strategies in that. Again, I covered that in my freelance course in depth. It comes down to project and client management and client expectations. It comes down to good contracts, make sure everybody knows where they stand, what you expect. Yeah, off the top of my head. So on the applications, they say how many years since you've been programmed. I put 8 years, by the way. Since you have a veteran of computer world, do you remember Freenode? Does that ring a bell? Freenode. No. Sorry, guy. But I've literally have forgotten much more than I remember to this day. What do you think about Trongate? Don't know. Would you ever make an iOS course? I doubt it. I don't like making courses on things that I have not been commercially involved with. I could make a course on iOS, I suppose. But I'm not, the stuff that I teach is because I've made money with it. I've commercially involved with it. I could teach it, there's no question. But no, now I'm pivoting. If you do my code courses and my Python, JavaScript, PHP, my web stack course, you can learn iOS programming on your own within a week. You wouldn't need to buy courses or anything. You'd know how to code. I teach people how to be programmers. So you can do whatever type of programming you want afterwards. How do you see yourself celebrating your 200th birthday? Well, first I got to deal with 170. 170 is coming up pretty soon. Then we'll think about 200. What do you do in terms of receiving payment if the project is dependent upon other parties provide data, etc., and they are taking forever, thus halting you? Welcome to the world of freelance development. That's very common, where you get your first version up, but you need data to complete things. That's why you have to first you got to get payment in thirds. 33 up front, 33 on the delivery of the very first rough draft, or the alpha, if you will, of the application. And the last third when you deliver the final. Why do I suggest that over 50-50? Is because the first 2/3 of the money come very quickly, right? You get that first draft or that alpha out very quick, where you don't need all this data. So now you have nearly 70% of the money. So that's the first thing you do, number one. Number two, and when you have almost 70% of the money, they're motivated to get you that information, to push the other people to get that information to you. Whereas if they only paid you half, they're not as motivated. But when they feel that they're in for 70% almost, they're very motivated. The client is. And the other thing you do is you got to have many irons in the fire, because you're going to have clients who are going to slack. So you got to have projects that are ongoing, and you got to learn to manage multiple projects at the same time, because you're going to have clients who are going to slack like that. That's just the way it goes. So that's why you got to document everything and date everything, so that if they don't deliver whatever you need from them to complete the project, you can have email records showing, listen, I requested this information from you on this date, and then on this date, and on this date. You got to be polite about it, etc. I said, now I've been waiting all that period of time. I would have done it. Now you've come to me after 2 months or 4 months or 5 months, and you expect me to just drop everything. I can't. I put you in the queue. You get in the schedule, but unfortunately you didn't deliver when you were supposed to deliver. So that's what it is. That's why you got to have everything documented and dated. So there's a good email track record, and you can do it all very politely and diplomatically, and most people will be reasonable about all that. Anyway, So we're going to be ending it off soon. It's 50 minutes in, and I'm getting leg cramps. I think it's all the carbs. Hey, Stef, sorry I didn't come on when you first came on as was working on a client site. No worries, Ben. There'll be a replay. You can watch it. Thanks for dropping in. What do you think about my route? I learned HTML, CSS. Now I'm learning JS, and I will start learning PHP Laravel. Sounds good. At the same time, I will continue JS, and after some time, start React. No love from Serbia. Well, once you get into PHP Laravel, I would start looking for some real work. So you shift from learning, most of your time learning, to most of your time trying to get work, and maybe 10% learning or 20% learning in terms of your time. Because you're going to learn so much more by just doing work, okay? All right, well, thanks, Ben. Just FYI, Shopify has a hot platform currently due to the pandemic. If you have experience, you get a lot of work. There you go. Shopify work. You're not the only person to say that. Is this a live or a pre-recording? Well, you're seeing your own comment there on screen. So I doubt it's a pre-recording because I wouldn't be able to display your comment. Why do you ask? I get that question I know what it is. It's the video quality. Sup? How you doing, Mr. Camacho? I hope everything's good. Yeah, good to see you too. Thanks for joining the stream. All right, I'm going to finish off here because I had too many carbs early tonight, and I'm getting very tired. So we'll see. We'll answer a few more. With COVID negatively impacting small business, how damaging is this to freelance for the foreseeable future? Well, I think it's going to be a boon. Once this is over, I know governments are going to be motivated to encourage small business because the majority of jobs are provided by small businesses, not big businesses. So they're going to have to do it. So there's going to be a lot of websites to be built. I think it's going to be an explosion at some point once we get past this COVID. So get ready. Get ready. Depends. Talk to different people. You get different answers. Which is the best website to start freelancing? Sold. You got yourself a new subscriber. There we go. See, that's how you do sales. IRC ring a bell. Yes, it does. Many WordPress job lists, jQuery, and Bootstrap. There we go. Is a brief tutorial enough for those? I already know. Yeah, I think you should be okay. See, there you go. Right? jQuery. People go, jQuery. Still a lot of jobs. WordPress, a lot of jobs. Bootstrap, a lot of jobs. Hear this over and over and over again. Yeah, don't let the nerdling tribe tell you that you have to learn this cutting edge stuff only. Let the jobs guide you in terms of what you got to learn. I bought his courses way back when it was on CDs. Good stuff. Wow. CDs. That's funny. Yeah, actually, you know what? Here's something I found. I was going through my archives. I'm going to pull this up. This is pretty funny stuff. This is like for the Killer Video Store circa, I guess it's 2000. Maybe, no, it can't be. It's got to be 2003, 2004. Learn Dreamweaver CS3. This is young nerdling here in the box. Yeah, and I used to ship out CDs. And then we got advanced, and I started shipping out DVDs. And then I started shipping out thumb drives. Now it's all digital. Now it's streaming in the platform. But this goes back a long time. Dreamweaver CS3. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Dial-up days. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. Did you need to get an LLC before? No, see, that type of business question, LLC, if people don't know, is Limited Liability Corporation. The laws are governed by local state and country, so you should just talk to a local bookkeeper, see what they say about that. Typically, no, from what I understand, North America and Europe. In Canada, until you're making, I think it's like 80,000 or something, is you might as well just have a simple sole proprietorship type of business organization. Then after that, then you need to have a corporation, an LLC, for tax reasons, just for tax reasons. But there's added costs to having LLCs in terms of taxes. But again, you got to look at your particular, where your part of the world, what your region is, and you'll find that out. Are you going to have a discount sale? I do have a big discount sale going. I advertise. You know what? Give me a couple of days. I'll throw up the coupon again. Big one. Great answers. Thanks, Matt. I'm glad I could help, Mr. Botha. Hey, let's see. Space Monkey. Hey, Stef. How's ever? I'm actually pretty exhausted right now. I'm pretty exhausted. So we're going to be letting you go soon, guys. It's almost an hour now. Thanks for joining in, by the way. I always enjoy these lives pretty good. It's cool. I bought Dreamweaver back in 1998. Wow. Yeah, Dreamweaver used to be the bomb, man. Love the word nerdling. Yeah, that's nerdling. You know, tells you it's a good word. Tells people what you know what the message is. I like diapered nerdling too. Yeah. When will the merch be available? There's so many things to do. So your courses is someone need to land a job. Yeah, I've had people. If you just go to Google Business or you just type in Studio Web Montreal just to be sure you catch me. You see all kinds of reviews people left on Google about my courses, and a lot of people, they just, one guy was telling me, which I was pretty impressed, he had never done coding before, and he did my WebStack courses, and within 2 months he was able to get a job, and he beat out people with computer science degrees, because I teach you how to write real code. Do you invest in stocks? I do indeed, but I'm going to talk about this a little bit in my mentoring course. When it comes to stock market, your best bet overall, and this is based on data, statistics, is to buy ETFs, not try to pick winners and losers, because 90% of traders, they're outperformed by the indexes. An index is just a little bit of all the top stocks out there. So yeah, some people get lucky once in a while, but if you look at the statistics, overall, over a 10-year period, the people who buy index funds, typically outperform 80 or 90, I forget the exact data percentages of traders. So that's what I would suggest that you do. And then you just hold. That's it. You're going to have winners, you're going to have losers. But over time, with all this money printing that they're doing around the world, there's going to be inflation. So any hard assets are just going to go up. Do you recommend use Fiverr for freelancing? If you can make it work for you, I have not explored the Fiverr community. But if you can make it work for you, I know it could be, pretty low cutthroat. But I've talked about this in other vlogs where if you set yourself up properly, even on these online places like Fiverr and stuff, you can make money if you know what you're doing. Let's see. Do you have a lifetime guarantee, meaning lifetime sub or subscription? Yeah, when you buy any of my programs, you basically have access for life. That's it. Even the mentoring program. The mentoring program, when I first started, it was 12 months. But now, for the most part, you have lifetime access. I bought your course. Is there a private mastermind group available? There is. It's my mentoring group. which gives you access to everything, the private mentoring group, the Zoom meetings, consultations, etc. We're rolling. I launched the beta, I don't know, 7-8 months ago. Got a bunch of people on it, pretty successful. I like doing it. So we're expanding on that as well. So yeah, that's in there as well. Just check up Studio Web Mentoring and you'll see it pops up. Buy gold and not just stocks. Yeah, no, you want to be diversified in your asset classes, so because you don't know where things are going to go. So commodities, stocks, gold, real estate. Even now, I don't know if I jump on crypto now, given the run, but Bitcoin. Is there a chance that Bitcoin could go from 20K to 100K? Yeah, very good chance. I'm not saying it will. I'm not giving you advice, but it went from 3 to 20. So go from 20 to 100 is no big deal, right? It's only a 5-fold increase. So, but would I do it now after a big run-up? Typically when you see a big whoosh, there's usually a correction down. Happened last time with the cryptos, right? When it was 17, 18,000, I was telling people don't jump in now. And sure enough, it crashed down to 3 and popped back up again. So who knows? I don't have a crystal ball. What do you think of tools like Bubble.io where you can make an Uber clone or Airbnb type of site? I don't know Bubble.io specifically, but it looks like a good prototyping framework that you could use, so why not? So is there one program I can buy and I'll be set for life, or I have to buy a lot of stuff, of bundles, etc.? Well, in terms of coding, like if you listen, I'm biased, right? But if you do my web stack courses, Python, my mentoring program, you basically got everything you need. And then you got to understand, as a developer, your job as a developer is to learn new things as you go. You're a problem solver. You're a problem solver. Like we were having a discussion on the mentoring community a couple weeks back or whatever it was, one of the Zoom sessions. And a bunch of guys, some of the guys are getting into now freelance work, and they're discovering what I've been teaching, telling them. But a lot of the work has nothing to do with coding. It's about communications with the client, figuring out requirements. Okay, you got to do something. You go learn how to do this one thing. Again, if you have a solid grasp of fundamental principles, concepts, and technique in coding, you'll be able to do this, right? It's not like you learn everything, then you go out. It doesn't work that way in the real world. You learn a certain set of skills you have to know, and then from there you're continuously drawing more information. That's just the way it is. Yeah, Gavin. Yeah, so if you do my courses, you'll be very well prepared to be able to do whatever you want to do. That's the whole point of them. What type of development service would you offer on Fiverr so that it doesn't feel like you're giving away your work? Well, that's an interesting question. I would have to look at what the Fiverr community is all about and in more detail and figure that one out. I don't know off the top of my head. But I'm sure there's a way. You got to learn it, right? You got to learn that market. You got to learn that environment, sort of figure out what's going to work for you or not. All right, guys. So yeah, I noticed when I did start talking about stocks, because somebody asked me about stock market, I got a bunch of thumbs down. I guess people hate the stock market. Hello, brother. I would like to know whether it's a good idea to create huge e-commerce website with Java Spring Boot framework for backend website like Amazon. Well, it's a big job, but there's probably opportunities for disruption. Would I build a prototype in Java Spring Boot? Probably not. Not that they're good tech, but I would want probably to rapidly develop it. So I would look more towards PHP Laravel or Python Django or Node.js. That's just me, just for speed of development. I followed your advice from about a week ago about freelancing. I landed a Ruby Rails job as my first developer job. Hey, congratulations. There you go. There's an irony that you did land that job. Not because of you, because of me. That's great. Congratulations. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, all right. I'm excited for the coupon code. Will this count for the whole program or unlimited mentoring lifetime? Yeah, we could do something like that. Yeah. Send me an email, Stefan at Studio Web, and we'll set you up there. How do you get better at pseudocode? Practice, practice, practice. But maybe I could do a pseudocode tutorial, quick little job. We can look at a project, maybe write out some pseudocode, see the process that I use. All right, guys, I am zonked. I gotta go drink some coffee, and I hope you have a good night. I hope you have a great weekend. Stay safe, and appreciate you joining. Always a good time. I enjoy doing these live streams, so that's why I do them. All right, guys, so we're going to end a video from my old place, actually. Nice night shot of Montreal. I think you'll find interesting. So we'll talk soon. Have a good night. Cheers.